Hi, this is Shauna, and I want to welcome you to Living in This Space. Real talk, because hey, we're all just living in this space we call life, right? It's messy, it's hard, and sometimes it's the most joyous thing we can experience. I want you, my listener, to have a place where the conversation is real and honest. I hope we can spend this time together, validating, sharing, and experiencing all the feels together with whatever topic is on the agenda for the day. Let's dive in. Well, hi and welcome back. Have I got a treat for you today? We are going to be talking to Lauren Youmans about her journey of reaching for a childhood dream. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about this sweet friend of mine. Lauren is a lover of Jesus, a former nurse practitioner, a wife, a mom of two beautiful little girls, and she has two thriving LLCs that she runs. You are super busy, girl.
Yes.
And I'm
Keep
so
it full.
yes, and I'm so glad you made time for us today.
Yeah.
So listeners, today we're going to be talking about her latest adventure and a lifelong dream of having her own floral business. So first of all, Lauren, thank you so much, by taking some time out of your busy schedule today. And we're going to dive right in if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so my first question for you is, you shared with me a while back that having a floral business was a dream of yours as a little girl. And when we were talking about that, you talked about 3 different types of dreams that I had never heard of, and I thought it was so interesting. Can you tell us just a little bit more about those 3 types of dreams and how they tie in together with that dream you had as a little girl?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So last year, it was funny. I was just at Jekyll Island this last week, and the store where I bought the book, it's called Dream Big by Bob Goff. And the store that I bought it at, they had it. So my mom and I walked back through the store, and it just was amazing because it was spring break or fall break of last year, so September. And I started reading that book and journaling through it. And it talked about there being 3 different types of dreams. And one of them was our buried dreams. So the dreams that we had when we were a child, that as we grew up, we just decided, okay, it's not logical. It's not the time, we kind of buried it and decided it wasn't, it wasn't feasible. And so during that time of kind of going through that devotional and journaling through it, florals just kept coming up. And, as kind of being the dream that I had when I was a little girl. I loved flowers. My grandmother and my great grandmother had beautiful gardens. And I just remember as a little girl, like frolicking through their gardens and being amidst, her teaching me how to grow certain things and just being amidst it and having, this joy and and then I got into the medical field and other things and kind of put that dream aside and thought, well, when I retire someday, I'll do that. And so, I felt very led to just dig up that buried dream and to step into it.
I love that. I love that. I'm sure a lot of you out there have buried dreams as well. So this is going to be perfect for you to listen to. You were already running a very successful business that allowed you to stay home with your girls. And I'd love for you to share with us where you were in this busy season of your life that prompted you to reach for that little girl's dream again.
Yeah. So, I think the course of the last 3 years or so, when I started, right around that time, September or October of last year, there were some pretty major hardships that had happened. And between loss of people that I really loved, having, honestly, having a immediate family member in prison, going through addiction and a family member, some hardships in my business that I was running, it just felt like, when like you feel like you get kicked down and then you just keep getting kicked. Like it almost felt that way. Like it just felt like I just was really broken.
Mm-hmm.
I was really broken. And I've struggled with anxiety and depression through my life. But this was the hardest season I'd ever walked through. And I think it almost felt like I didn't know how to keep moving forward in many ways.
Yes.
And, I think through that time, I know that we'll probably get to this more, but I really delved into my faith,
Mhm.
and I feel like this dream was just planted, and it felt like when I was with flowers, I felt more free. I felt like beauty. I felt joy. I felt God's presence in different ways. And I was reminded of scriptures, that like Matthew 6 that talk about how he cares for the flowers in the field and how much more so he cares for us. And just so yeah, I was very broken. I was very broken. And I feel like in many ways working with flowers has reminded me of the beauty, not only in my own life, but the beauty in this world, and that there still is beauty even amidst brokenness, even amidst pain.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that because I knew you through that season
Mhm.
and it has been a tough season. It's it's so easy to get lost and lose sight of some of the dreams that we have and some of the goals that we have. And it sounds like that really hard season kind of revealed to you and brought back into your field of focus something that you had wanted to do for so long.
Yeah.
And I really, and I want to tell the listeners, I had a different title for this episode. And when Lauren and I were talking about doing this, she mentioned Beauty from Ashes. And I thought that is the perfect title because you work with these beautiful flowers and you were so broken in this season when you decided to step into this and see where it took you. And I'm so glad you did.
Mm,
And I'm
thank
so
you.
glad. And thank you so much for sharing that. And it kind of leads into my next question. You do have such a strong faith. And I love that about you. And you are such an inspiration to all of those who know you. So
Mm.
what, how did that help you through this hard season?
Yeah. Um, I in some it's funny you said busy because in some ways I had to slow down a little bit, and I
Hmm.
had to remember almost like the pillars that I need in my life to be able to be the best version of myself. And
Right.
one of those pillars for me personally is my faith. And so, in a season where it could have been very easy to be angry, and there was definitely anger, um, it made the world of difference for me every morning to have time when I slowed down and when I prayed through what I was feeling and journaled through what I was feeling. And one of the things that I started doing in that season was using a gratitude journal, just a cheap gratitude journal from Amazon. Sorry.
We're keeping it real here today, aren't we?
We are. My 6-year-old is acting for my dog. And so anyway, I started journaling every morning in my gratitude journal, and one of the things is, the three things that I feel most grateful for that day.
Hmm.
So I would write that, and then I would write, what were the best moments from the day before, and what was I most excited about for the day ahead, and kind of keeping that perspective. And then reading different books on dreaming, having just, I don't know, staying connected to my faith, staying connected to God in that season. And honestly, having some friends that helped keep me grounded too, that
Yeah.
knew what was all going on and were able to help me to keep an eternal perspective and to stay focused on the good, because I think that was the thing I probably learned the most, is that grief and joy can and will coexist. You just
Right.
have to be willing to look for it.
Yes, that is so true. And you mentioned earlier about your anxiety and all of these things that you've talked about doing. I've really struggled with anxiety and depression as well. And I've talked on my previous podcasts about journaling and speaking with, people who you trust and, kind
Mhm.
of getting help there. And then your faith is usually the pillar. and the cornerstone of, working through that. So I think that if you're listening and you're struggling with any of these things, this is kind of confirmation that all of these things will help you to kind of work through this. And I love that you brought that up, that it was something that you drew from and pulled from.
Absolutely. And I definitely got therapy as well.
Yes.
Still get therapy. So not just, I think, and it's, I'll just be frank. I feel like I said that and then I was like, oh, Frank.
Yes.
Your husband. I think that in many ways, growing up in church, I think, and even just in our society in general, mental health wasn't really talked about a lot. And in some ways it felt like, okay, you can't, you shouldn't need therapy. You shouldn't need medication. You shouldn't need all these things. And I have needed it. And so it's been definitely a combination and just realizing that, okay, there are resources there and
Absolutely.
That I want to take advantage of those things so that I can be the best version of myself. So
Well, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. I really do appreciate that.
yeah, of course.
Well, listen, your previous career was in the medical field as a nurse practitioner. And I know that probably what pulled you into that field was a deep desire to impact others' lives and focus on helping and healing. I have a bit of insight into this next question, so I'm really excited for you to share with those who are listening. I would love for you to talk about how you are impacting your world now with your floral business in so many different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I think part of why being, doing florals was a very dream was because I had grown up with a father who was a surgeon. And I felt like, in order to make a big impact, I needed to be doing something in the medical field or something, and I loved being a nurse practitioner and I still am, I still am licensed to be a nurse practitioner. But I think realizing that no matter what you do, you can make an impact. And it's been interesting because I think stepping into working with florals, I feel like I am making an impact. I feel like flowers are such an important part of the hardest parts of our lives. When we go through passing of a loved one, when we're recovering from a surgery, when we've, when we're sick, it's often very frequent to get sympathy flowers or get well soon flowers. Or when it's the most elated times in your life, like, whether it's a birthday celebration or a party or a wedding, an anniversary, flowers are there for all of those things. And so I think what's been so impactful is being able to connect with people. One of my probably my two most favorite things to do within florals is number one, weddings. And then number two, sympathy, whether it's funeral or celebration of life or, sympathy flowers, because I love finding out from people, well, what did that person mean to you? What were they like? What were their favorite flowers or favorite colors? Or, describe to me that person, and then being able to make and design arrangements that almost personify that person. And I've seen it, bring tears to people's eyes as they look at the flowers and remember that life and celebrate that life. And so, that, and then of course, weddings, I think it's really fun getting to sit down much like this with someone and find out, what are your dreams? What is your vision for this special day? And getting to help them see that dream and that vision become reality. And so it's just been such a joy to get to use something that I feel so passionate about. I feel like I've been gifted at, to be able to bring life and beauty and joy and healing and remembrance in all of those moments. And so it's, and there's nothing like the delivery part or bringing in a bridal bouquet to the bride on her wedding day. I mean, there's nothing like the glow that comes from that, or the surprise delivery that someone doesn't expect, So It's
That blessing goes both ways.
yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love, if somebody passes away and I go online and I order an arrangement, I never know what it's going to look like. It's very impersonal. But if you don't know somebody in that area, you don't have a lot of choice. But
Right.
I love that you make it so personal
Mhm.
and you find out about the person it's intended for or the remembrance. That's precious. That's
Thank
just
you.
precious. Well, you also do workshops.
I do.
And I know that you kind of have a little bit of a ministry tied to that
Yeah.
with your workshops. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started doing those. It was funny. During that time, I was reading through that devotional book. I did a bridal shower for my now sister-in-law, and I made 18 floral arrangements, and they were all over in our clubhouse in our neighborhood. And we had rented the neighborhood for the event. And at that event, nearly every single person came up to me and said, "Oh my goodness, these flowers are gorgeous. Are you a florist?" And I said, "Well, I would love to be, but no." And three different people at that event said, "You should teach people how to make these. Like you should do, how they have the sips and strokes events. Like you should teach people how to do floral arrangements like this." And I
Right.
was sitting there and I was looking around in that space and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this would be the perfect space to do this." So the very next day, I called our neighborhood HOA and rented the clubhouse for my first
Mhm.
event. And then right after my first event, I rented again for my next two. And so since then, I've done them at least once a month. Started doing them in my neighborhood, and from the beginning, I mean, it was just a hit. We'd had 20 to 25 people in each of the ones in my clubhouse, and just a time to
Wow.
get together. I had moved into our neighborhood when I was 8 months pregnant, right after my father went through a pretty horrific car accident, and it was right at the start of COVID, and I didn't really know anyone in the
Yeah.
neighborhood for the first couple of years. So to be able to have an opportunity to share this gift, to create community, to bring people together, and I always share at the beginning of the workshops about just that, dreaming and your buried dreams, and remembering to figure out how can you incorporate those buried dreams in your life now. So it's been really cool because even after the workshops, I've had people come up to me and say, "I've decided I'm going to pursue this," or people have messaged me and said, "You really inspired me to start, doing this," or they'll send me pictures of the arrangements that they've made and say, "Just want you to know it brought so much joy to my life today to pick out flowers and put this arrangement together." So, just
Wow. Yes.
and so it's been a blast. And now I'm doing them even in private, for private parties in people's homes. I'm doing them at a art studio. And so it's just been really neat to branch out and just I'm all about creating community, and especially like partnering with other small business owners or local people, and getting to dig deep, together, especially as women. But we always have kids, and we've had some men, and it's open to anyone. So
Yeah.
it's been a
I
lot of
love
fun.
that.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of fun. I wish so much I lived closer. I am miles away from Lauren, but if I was closer, I would come to every one of them. I love that you're pulling in your positive message and, building those dreams because a lot of us as women put things like that on the back burner. We have families, we have, we're wives, we're employees, we take care of children, we nurture, and a lot of times we put our dreams on the back burner.
Yeah.
And I love that when you're doing these workshops, you're talking about that and you're encouraging these women or men, whoever's there, and even children to follow their dreams. And I mean, you can do anything. You just have to sometimes step out, right? On a little bit of faith. And
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
love
But
that.
scared, I'm still
Yes.
making it up as I go.
Oh, I can tell this podcast
Yeah.
was, kind of like, okay, we're going to do it. And I'm still
Mhm.
learning every day. Well, you have two beautiful little daughters, and I know they're mommy's helpers. What is the best thing about being able to include them into your floral business?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's just funny because both of them have a lot of personality. I
Hmm.
have a 6-year-old named Rosalie and a 3-year-old named Adeline. And my 6-year-old the other day, she loves, I have a workshop in my garage. I love being able to work from my home. So at this point, I have a studio space in my home so that I can be with them. And the other day she came out and was sitting with me. I have at my desk, I have 3 seats so that the girls can come sit with me, and they all put together floral arrangements right next to me while we're doing it. But Rosalie came out and she goes, "Mom, are you the queen of flowers?" And she said, "Because you are the most amazing person making beautiful flowers."
Oh, Lauren, I love that.
And she says, she'll say little things like, "Mommy, I love how I love how you dream. I love how you do things you love to do." And so, I think our little eyes are always watching. But so she's come to pretty much every one of my workshops. We did a Valentine's Day themed one that was like a date night. So she didn't come to that one, but pretty much all of the workshops, unless it's in someone's personal home, she comes to. And I usually set up like a kid station. And she actually will now lead the workshop for the children while I'm leading the one for the adults, because she knows every step and what to do. And so she's amazing. And then my 3-year-old and my 6-year-old, I started really building the business by posting my floral arrangements actually in my neighborhood Facebook group. And then of course it built momentum doing the workshops in my neighborhood and things like that. And so often now we'll just carry around arrangements and deliver them throughout the neighborhood as people order. And sometimes I'll have a wagon behind me. And so they love coming and doing deliveries with me. And it's a great way to be active too. We'll just walk around the neighborhood and bring, them to people's houses.
Hmm.
And so they've definitely been a part of it. And it's fun to see. It's fun to see them stop and smell the roses, because
Yes.
everywhere we go, they want to know the name of the flower, or they want to smell it, or they want to, and I feel like it's helping them to see the beauty in nature as well. So it's a lot of fun.
What a gift you're giving them. And I have to stop and say something really quick. Lauren is such an amazing encourager. And if you know her, you absolutely know that about her. And I love that it's obvious you're passing that gift on to your children.
Mhm.
And just for that, Rosalie to tell you that, just spur of the moment, it sounds like she's a little encourager as well. And I love that you're passing that gift because it is such a gift. So
Mm.
I want to thank you for that because
Friends.
you've encouraged me so many times when, I think you must have a discernment that somebody needs it in that
Mhm.
moment. So I just want
Mm.
to stop and thank you for that. Okay, so I'm curious. You've got to have leftovers,
Mhm.
and I'm sure that you don't sell every single flower that you have. So what
Right.
do you do with your leftovers?
Yeah, great question. So I recently, my grandmother actually has Alzheimer's, and she lives in Minnesota. And the same grandmother that I was talking about frolicking through her garden,
Yes.
she loves flowers. And recently I went up to visit her, and it was dreary, freezing cold, blizzard, literally blizzard in Minnesota. And so I went to Trader Joe's, of course, found my local Trader Joe's there, bought flowers, and put together a beautiful arrangement and brought it to the nursing home. She's in a memory care unit now.
Hmm.
And you would not believe the way that her face lit up, bringing those flowers in there. And even the residents who saw them, talking about their gardens, and they remember the names of the flowers. Uh,
Oh,
and so I wish I lived closer. I wish I could do that for her all the time. But I started to think about, and actually one of my neighbors that has worked in a facility like that before also recommended it and was like, "Lauren, it would be so cool to bring flowers there." And so that's what I've started doing recently. And I bring my daughters with me, and
hmm.
so we go to memory care units or retirement homes and bring the arrangements, especially for holidays. So for 4th of July, I brought I think like 10 or 12 arrangements that were, flowers that were left over from different events and things, and brought them there. And it was just precious, like seeing the girls interact with the residents, and it just really warmed my heart. And even like some of the family members that were there, that day were just so appreciative. And I actually got a message from someone whose mom, or no, it was her grandmother, lives in one of the homes that we went to, and I didn't know. And so I asked her for her name, and now I'll personally go and meet her and talk to her. And
Oh,
so I know I appreciate when people do that for my grandmother and go meet and talk with her in Minnesota. And I want to do that for people here. And it's such a great way to be able to spread beauty when they might not be able to walk outside very much anymore,
right.
or, see flowers and gardens very much anymore, but to be able to have that brought in and be able to appreciate it. So
Wow. And you use such a beautiful array of flowers anyway. I mean, I've seen flowers in your bouquets when you post them on social media that you just don't see in just your day-to-day arrangements at the store. So I so appreciate that you're doing that, because my mother lived in facilities for probably the last 15 years of her life. And I always remember if I took flowers in, residents would stop me in the hall and compliment the flowers and, oh, they're so beautiful. So it's such a universal thing of beauty for everyone. Everyone loves flowers.
yes, yes.
Wow. Well,
And
thank you.
yeah.
As a daughter of, someone who lived in a facility like that. Thank you for sharing like that, because I think it's such a gift you're giving back.
Absolutely. And it's a gift to me too, to get to
Of
see
course.
those residents and get to have those conversations, and the girls love it. So
Oh, and the elderly love children, so
oh yeah.
you're just gifting them twice.
Absolutely.
Well, so we talked earlier about you support a lot of people, a
Yeah.
lot of local businesses and things. Where do you get your flowers from?
Yeah. So actually, I love supporting local, because I love when people support, my local businesses too. And it's so fun to be able to network. And I found, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of the flowers that I use, you can't find in stores. And
Right.
that's really because most of the flowers that I purchase are actually from local farms. So I now have three or four different farms that I frequently get flowers from. And it's really fun because a couple of them I've really become great friends with. And so I'm actually right after this, I'm going to one of them. And I'm one of the few floral designers that actually goes to the farms. And a couple of them, they allow me to help them harvest the flowers and get
Oh,
to be a
wow.
part of the process. And so I can frolic through the fields and the
Yes.
flowers. And I love that the farms that I get the flowers from, they don't use, chemical, like extra chemicals. It's natural, organic. And so I love that. And I love that when I get the flowers, they're harvested that day. And so
Mhm.
they last longer. And because if you think about it, most flowers that you purchase at a store, they're getting from Colombia or Ecuador or other countries where they're harvested, and then they have to be packaged. They have to be
Wow.
shipped by air, or, and so by the time that they actually come to you, or that you're purchasing them from the store, they might have been cut a week ago. So
Right.
it shortens the vase life. So to be able to get flowers that are harvested that day and locally harvested. And it also is amazing because I really just started this business in October. So it's so fun because every week I'm getting new and different flowers from local farms, and they're ones that are seasonal. And so I still, of course, there's, definitely flowers and greenery and things like that I do have to purchase outside of locally, but I strive to mostly do, support local farms.
I
And
love
it's
that.
been such a joy to do that. And I've learned so much about that process too.
I bet. And I never thought about the chemicals and the way they're harvested. And I had no idea that they didn't usually come from this country. So that is so interesting to know. And I know from your pictures that one of the farms that you go to has baby goats. Tell us about the baby goats.
Oh my goodness. So they they have over 40 goats now.
Yeah,
And
I want to come to Atlanta and go with you just for the baby
oh,
goats.
you need to. Yes. They have 11, I think it's 11 that they've had within the last few weeks. And it's so funny because the owner, it's called Splendor Oaks, and the owner is her name's Diana. She's become one of my really close friends. They wouldn't mind that I share that. And she FaceTimes me whenever there's a baby being born, a baby goat being born, so that I can see the process. And normally she's like, "Hey, get your shoes on, come over," because she's about 15 minutes away. So I've actually gotten to, be a part of that process.
Wow.
I have to tell you, I have always loved baby goats, mostly just from pictures, but like being able to be with them in person, I mean, it's just the cutest thing. And this farm has a goat. Sorry, they have all the goats. They have a pig, they have a sheep, they have tons of chickens. And so that's a dream of ours someday, is to have our own land. And I don't know now, like, would love to grow sunflowers, probably not that much because I prefer designing. But anyways, it's such a blast to.
I love that.
For now, I just have my dog.
Yes, but baby goats. Oh my goodness. Well, okay. So as we wrap up, I have so loved talking to you, and I know the listeners are going to really enjoy listening to this. As we wrap up, I'm going to just get a little personal here. Would you share with us something that you have learned or discovered about yourself as you've stepped into this that surprised you?
Yeah. I think the thing that probably comes to mind first is just that I can definitely be a people pleaser sometimes to a fault. Mm-hmm. And so I've had to learn, I think now with having two businesses, just to almost like stick in my own lane and stand up for, what I believe in, because the reality is no matter what you do, there are going to be people that aren't going to agree, or
Absolutely.
that aren't going to understand, or that may have differing opinions, or would do things a different way, or whatever. And you can lose so much of your passion, of your joy, of your fulfillment, if you're constantly trying to please other people. And so I think it's really helped me to step more into who I am and to be unashamed of that. And then to just do the things that bring me joy and that I'm having fun with. And if people don't agree, that's okay. Or, kind of owning who I am, I have a very different design. Like what you're going to see from a florist online is going to be very different than what I do, because everything that I make is one of a kind and unique. And I never make the same thing twice. And I don't follow almost like a chef that doesn't follow a recipe. Like I don't follow a floral recipe. I just let the flowers kind of, this might sound woo-woo, but, speak to me as I make it. And so I think whatever you're doing, whatever business or whatever venture, just remembering to own who you are, own your own creativity, your own passions, your own desires, and just to know, kind of accept that it's okay to be misunderstood sometimes.
Yes. What a powerful message. What a powerful message. And thank you for sharing that. I imagine, like me, you may have gotten caught up. I'm a people pleaser myself. And it is so easy to fall into that trap. And I think that for the most part, as people pleasers, we can lose ourselves very easily because we're so caught up in everybody else. And I just adore that you have stepped out of that. Not that we ever fully get over it, because it's probably hangs around a little bit. But I love that you're just glowing now. You seem so happy and so genuinely loving what you're doing. So I love that so much, Lauren. And I so appreciate the time that you took today to step in here. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while about this, and it's been so much fun.
It has. Thank you.
Yes.
I feel honored to have been asked, and it's been fun to both be on new ventures together.
Oh, yes. I love that. Well, listeners, if you're in the Atlanta area and need a beautiful flower arrangement, or you want to send one to somebody in that area, I know that you don't do deliveries like away from Atlanta, right? You're just local.
Well, I do weddings and events within about a 2-hour radius.
Oh, that's good to know.
And then
Okay.
I do deliveries I mostly try to do them within 15 to 20 minutes of distance. I have gone further, but I do charge, for if
Right.
it's a further distance. But yes, so that's the longer answer, I guess.
Okay, good. So if you're in the Atlanta area, I'm going to put a link in the notes of this podcast that you can go directly to Lauren's social media where she has a page for her flower arranging. And Lauren, thank you so much, sweetie, for being on with us today. And we're going to see each other in just a day or two, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Okay, so listeners, thank you for tuning in. And until the next time, I hope each of you are following your dreams. Hey, thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit follow wherever you get your podcast. And until next time, I hope you live in your space well, my friends.